Good morning, Quadcopter 101 here, and today's shout out goes to Daniel12345. He was first to say first in one of my recent videos, and he thus was his shout out. So congratulations, Daniel. Good morning, Quadcopter 101, and I have a really interesting airplane for you today. This is the X450 Aviator, vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. Now, looking at this, those of you that have been around the RC community can recognize this right away, what this is. This obviously is a clone of the e-flite mini convergence. Now, the e-flite mini convergence has been out for a while, but as usual, we see cloning happens quite a bit in China in particular. If somebody has a really cool idea or something neat, it tends to show up in other aircraft, and here we got this one from XK. Now, XK has had some other innovative aircraft that they've put out recently, like the X520, but the X520 and X420 is another one, that's a brushed motor one, all take off vertically, which means they take off on their nose. Okay, they stand on their tail and take off on their nose. This one can fly like that, although it can't take off like that, but it can convert to that. This one takes off horizontally, like a quadcopter, and is flown like a quadcopter until you want to transition to forward flight. By the flip of the switch, these motors will tilt forward, like you see there, via these servos, and convert it into an airplane. Actual airplane flight. When that does that, this motor in the back here, I believe, becomes inoperative. I don't know if it spins or not while in flight, but that's the way it works, folks. That's the way it's supposed to work out of the box. Now, what's the disadvantage of this is that it does not have any landing gear on the belly here. You can't land or take off conventionally via wheels. This one can only be taken off in airplane mode horizontally, like such. Now, when you do fly it in airplane mode, it is stabilized. Okay, you fly it in all of its modes, it is stabilized, with the exception of airplane mode. You can turn off that automatic stabilization to do acrobatics. Now, with the advantage of that stabilization, it's relatively easy to fly. Okay, this again flies exactly like a quadcopter in horizontal horizontal mode like this. They call it M mode, I believe. Yeah, M mode on the switch. But again, with the flick of the switch, you can either fly vertically or as an airplane. So now let's take a closer look at it inside here. Let me pop the top here. You get a 3S 11.1 volt 1000 milliampere hour battery. That gives this aircraft approximately, I believe, 11 minutes of flight time in horizontal hover mode, and up to 15 minutes of flight time as an airplane if you're flying this in airplane mode. So that's relatively good flight time, actually, compared to the original Convergence. I think it only has like a 5-minute flight time, so like double the flight time you get with this particular model. Other things about it, it has brushless motors, and these brushless motors are 1370 2300 kV brushless motors. So these motors should last, I'm hoping, in flight, depending on how well I can fly this without crashing it. But that's cool in itself. It's again constructed of EPO foam, should make it pretty resilient to impact crashes. So we'll see that too. Now, on the belly of this, it does have light bars. You can interpret that for night flying. I would interpret that. I think the real reason of these is these help in providing battery power, remaining battery power indication, because there is no telemetry to the transmitter. These are supposed to blink when you get low battery power, like the old school quadcopters from years ago. So that's how we used to determine low battery power. We'd look for blinking lights on the aircraft. And these are supposed to blink. So every once in a while, after you've been flying a while, bring the aircraft close to you and take a look at those lights to see if they're blinking. Also, looking at the belly of the aircraft, you notice that there's a little camera pod on the bottom. This one's empty. Right now, they don't have a camera version, but they are planning a camera version. However, if you look at this camera pod, it is angled 45 degrees downward. That tells us right away that whatever camera they're going to stick into this camera pod is not going to be very useful for FPV flying purposes, folks. You don't want to be looking at the ground. You want to be looking forward. And it's probably going to be a Wi-Fi flyer too, which makes it even less applicable for FPV purposes. So if you want to fly this FPV, don't be waiting for the FPV version. I got a feeling that's going to be not what you think it's going to be. If you really want to fly this FPV, put your own all-in-one camera on there. It should not be too hard. Just slap stick some Velcro on the top and slap an all-in-one on the top. That's the way I do it, actually. Let's see, what else? Again, notice that there's no landing gear on the bottom of this, so there's not going to be any opportunity or ability for this to take off and land conventionally like a conventional airplane. It's always going to have to be taken off horizontally in horizontal flight and then transition to forward flight. Now again, the advantage of this is if you don't have a large flying field with a good enough takeoff runway, you can still take off in a relatively small area, get it above your tree line or whatever, or buildings around your area, if you're allowed to do such, actually, and then transition to airplane flight. So you can fly this in areas that you normally wouldn't be able to fly an airplane. So, well, let's go over what you get in the box. You get an instruction manual. Looking at this instruction manual, it is one of those ones that looks like it's been converted using Google Translate, so expect some scratching of your head trying to get that, understand the how to use this, but I'll try to go over it as we're flying, so that should be some help. Also, you get a battery charger for that 3S battery. This is not the best type of balance charger that I would use. Okay, these are notorious for hurting batteries, these type of chargers. If you're into this hobby and you want to be flying batteries, 2S and 3S batteries, I really strongly recommend that you look into getting yourself a good balance charger. They're not too expensive. Look on your local websites and see if you can find one that you can that is affordable for you. Because again, this one here, I would not trust this to tell you the truth. Okay, what else do you get in the package? You get a full spare set of props, 3 of them. You get some spare screws, along with the screws needed to construct this. In terms of constructing this, all I had to do was screw on these tails. Okay, you insert them into their slots, and then there's a single screw to insert them in there. That's all the assembly required of this. It can be easily disassembled by unscrewing that and put back in the box if you so desire. But again, you get the spare set of screws. You get an Allen wrench here. I'm not sure what that would be for taking off the props. If you need to change the props, you're going to need to insert that through a little hole here while unscrewing the nut on top of the props. And you get a little screwdriver, again used for inserting the vertical tail. Now let's go over the controller. This is its controller. It's the X8. Yeah, it is an X8. XK-X8, their standard controller. What we got on here is switches in the upper left corner. This is, they say, M mode, 6G mode, and vertical mode. So if you switch this all the way up, that puts us in horizontal flight, or horizontal quadcopter mode. That is M mode. And when you want to switch to airplane mode, you hit the 6G mode, which is the center position on the switch. And when you want to fly vertically, you hit the vertical position of this switch. Okay, and on the right we have a button here. This is for turning the stabilization system off so you can do acrobatics. They call that 3D mode, going from 6G to 3D mode. This only works while you're in airplane mode, when you're flying forward in airplane mode. The stabilization system does not turn off in vertical mode or in horizontal quadcopter mode, M mode. And other buttons we got on here, you can switch between mode 1 and mode 2 using this button here. You have to follow the instructions in the manual. It's not as easy as you think it would be, but you do it like that. This button here is an automatic takeoff button. Let's talk about that. This has altitude hold. I forgot to mention, this does have a barometer altitude hold inside. However, its controller is not spring-loaded to the center here. So you're going to have to manually put this into center position for takeoff and landing, because when you want to increase the throttle, it's not going to work until you get back past this midpoint, since this is an altitude hold drone. Okay, for those of you that might be confused, you try to start the motors by bringing down and out or down and in. We'll start the motors, but you're not going to see any throttle input until you get past this midway position. So you're not going to be able to take off until you get past the midway position, and then throttle will be applied. Once you're in the air, leave it at center position to maintain altitude, and if you want to climb, give it a little more above center position, or if you want to descend, bring it down below center position, and the aircraft will descend. Other buttons here, you got photo button, I guess they're for their video camera mode, photo or FPV version, or whenever it comes along, this might be useful. But this is also useful for emergency stop. Let me mention that this is very important. Emergency stop is activated by holding this stick mode button down along with the photo button at the same time. Additionally, you can stop the motors by bringing the throttle all the way down and holding it down for about 3 seconds. But if that doesn't work, and it didn't yesterday for one of my flights, it just emergency stop by doing this, and that will turn off the motors. So that's the controller. That's what you get in the box. Let's take it out in the field and see how it flies. Hope you enjoy this flight. Good morning, Quadcopter 101 here. We are out at one of my favorite flying fields for this flight of the X450. Let's get it in the air. Let's show you how. Okay, make sure first off that your switch here is in M mode, horizontal mode, before you do anything here. And your throttle switch is all the way down, and we have the controller turned off. Now, turn the controller on, and then plug in the motors. Okay, so controller on first, and then plug in the motors. Or plug in the battery. Battery's being plugged in, and push its cable down inside there, and then let's button it back up again. And that edge goes there, and this edge goes there. So we're good there. And putting it on the ground on a relatively flat level surface. Now I forgot to mention one thing. Well, we should be bound. Let's go up and down. See if we're bound here. Yep, we're bound. One thing I forgot to mention is that you can, if this doesn't operate properly in horizontal mode, if it moves around, slides around, just put it on a flat level surface and bind it to the controller and move both sticks down to the left, and that will calibrate your gyros. I'm not going to do it right now because that's not really a perfectly flat surface, but just keep that in mind, folks. Okay, again, we need to start the motors first, or we can do an automatic takeoff. We'll try the automatic takeoff first. For that, you need to move the stick up and just a little bit above the midpoint, and then press the automatic takeoff button and hold it down, and then give it a little throttle above that midpoint. No, that did not work, folks. So let me try automatic takeoff with the stick all the way down, see if that did it. Nope. Okay, so we're going to start it manually by both sticks down and out, and then giving throttle. Okay, and it did not take off until I went above that midpoint. So let's bring it in close. Let me show you this thing. See the lights underneath it? Keep an eye on those as you're flying to see if they blink. Now again, this is flying exactly like a drone, like a quadcopter. So those of you who fly quadcopters should be able to fly this very easily because it flies exactly like a helicopter or a quadcopter. Although it's a tricopter to be more precise. Pretty neat, huh? Let's see what else we can do. Let's see. We can rotate it like that. And bring it by again. Let's see how fast it will go in quadcopter flight. I'm just going to leave it in quadcopter mode. This is quadcopter mode still. Full pitch forward. That's about as fast as it goes in quadcopter mode. Not super fast. So bringing it back. And I got a wind from my right now, going into the wind. And it slides along for quite a bit there in quadcopter mode. So let's bring it over. And the next thing we're going to try is we're going to go upwind a bit. I'm not going to go in airplane mode just yet. I'm going to try vertical mode. Vertical mode. And this also flies like a quadcopter in vertical mode, although you want to knife edge it into the wind, okay, because wind pushes this around very much. So that's what was the problem with the X420 or 520 and 420, is that in this mode it was very, very difficult to fly if there was any wind at all. Right now we got no wind just about. So going back to horizontal mode. Okay, so I think we're about ready to try airplane mode. Let me go up a little bit higher just because I don't know how much real estate is going to need to transition to airplane mode, but here we go, switching. And oh, it does it nicely. But it is fast, I'll give you that. It's a fast little plane. We are in airplane mode. Those motors are not spinning quite as fast as they were in non-airplane mode. So, but because of its speed, you're going to need some area to fly this. This is not a small area flyer. Whoa, almost stalled it. Woo, see how fast that thing is? I mean, it is fast. Do that again. That's cool. Let's see if I can do a fast flyby and then climb with it. I'm not coming out of I'm not thinking of doing 3D mode just yet, because this is my first flight of it, but look at that thing climb. It's like the X420, a lot of power in it. Again, if you put it at half stick, it maintains its altitude, okay? Right now I got it at half stick. And more or less it's maintaining altitude, although descending a little bit. Let me give it a little more throttle. Coming around. Fast flyer. Let's take it up real high, because I am going to go into 3D mode here shortly. And I don't know what it does at 3D mode, and that's why I'm going up high. 3D mode on. Okay, we're flying 3D mode. I can fly it a little bit slower. It's almost stalling up there. Okay, going back to 6G. I'm not sure 3D mode is fully unstabilized, because the way it was flying there, it was almost hovering in the air. Let me show you that again. Let's come around, go up higher. Okay, doing some loops, or that was rolls and a loop, and coming back to stabilize. So yeah, this does stunts quite readily, but they're fast stunts, because it's a fast flyer. Okay, let's go back into horizontal mode. Let's say we want to land it. Okay, coming around, going to horizontal mode, and it travels quite a bit there, but there we go. And we want to bring it in, we want to land it. Let's see, we land it back at its pad. Going back over to its pad, and as it comes in, let me check its lights too. Lights are still strong. Okay, reducing throttle below halfway point. See if I can get it on the pad. Got a wind here, pick it up again. And holding the throttle down, and the motor shut off. So that's pretty darn cool. Okay, this airplane, I kind of like it actually so far. Now, one thing I want to try is, what if we're in vertical flight or airplane flight and we switch to vertical mode? Will it stop itself quickly? I'm curious about that. Also, I'm going to try that automatic takeoff again. I'm going to give it a little more throttle than halfway point, and I'm hitting the automatic takeoff button, holding it down. Will it take off? No. So again, the only way I'm getting this to start, folks, is down and out, and then raising the throttle above midpoint, and it switches, it takes off. Okay, going to, let's see, airplane mode. I'm hearing lots of motorcycles coming through here today, folks. A lot of people coming out into the desert to enjoy the beautiful desert on this beautiful Saturday morning. Okay, what did I want to do is go to vertical mode. So I'm going to turn around, come around by us, and then switch to vertical mode. Ready, set, vertical mode. Oh, it stops it on a dime. And then switching to horizontal. Okay, that was pretty funky. I don't know what it did there, going from switching to vertical to horizontal, but boy, this thing's fast and powerful. Okay, there's a bunch of ravens over there. That means there's a thermal building up, and they're probably going to be seeing a little blast of wind here shortly. I got to come in closer too. I'm way out there. And back to horizontal. That was going from vertical to airplane mode. So for those of you who are curious if it can do that, yes it can. Lights are still not blinking yet. And coming around again, going up higher because I want to go back to 3D mode. I'm in 3D mode, folks. In the sun, coming, gotta stabilize again. Went through the sun, coming around, going back to 3D mode. I did a flip. There's those ravens over there. That thermal's coming this way. So, oh, and it's over here too. Let's fly with the ravens in stabilized mode. Let's catch that thermal. I'm going to walk over that way. Flying with the ravens in their thermal. Whenever you see these guys, whenever you see circling birds, that's an opportunity for you to do some not slope soaring, thermal soaring actually. Okay. Flying with the... Now, don't fly with eagles. I've tried that in the Philippines. And those of you who've seen that video, eagles don't like this. Okay, I'm losing power on this, so it's time to land it. Time to land it. We're going to land it right there. Let me check the lights first before I do land it. Oh, the lights are still strong, so I'm not sure that those lights are accurate indication of... they're not flashing, but I am losing power. Those are not ravens, by the way. Those are buzzards. Let's see if I can get back up to them again. No, I'm giving it more power. It doesn't want to climb as much, so this is about its flight time, folks. We're going to call it quits, though. Those were buzzards. I thought they were ravens. Okay, we're going to land it right here. And that's about its flight time, folks. And that was some pretty aggressive flying, at least for me. It's not wanting to stop. Notice I got both sticks, or the throttle stick all the way down. So in this case, where the motor's not stopping, let's try that emergency stop again, holding this button and this button down simultaneously. And there we go. So if your motor doesn't stop, remember to use emergency stop. So what do I think of this thing? It's pretty darn cool. It's actually pretty cool. I enjoyed flying it. 3D mode wasn't as hard as I thought it was. I think it still has a little bit of stabilization in there to keep it semi-stable, but it will allow you to do loops and rolls. The loops are very, very tight, folks. I gave it, well, I guess you could reduce that by not giving as much stick, but this thing was just flipping like that on its loops. It does rolls quite nicely too, but again, if you're going to do that, especially on your first flight, keep it up high. And then be ready to hit that red button again to go back into horizontal flight. I'm transitioning between horizontal mode flight and vertical mode flight, either this one or this one, and airplane mode was actually quite smooth. However, it is a fast flyer, a very fast flyer, so either you're going to have to keep it up high above your neighborhood or have a nice open field like I did to fly this to prevent you from running out of real estate while you're in the air. So again, that is the X450, another neat airplane from XK. XK always surprises me with the stuff they come out with. Even though this one's a clone, it's a relatively good flying clone. I enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoyed this flight, because I did. This is Quadcopter 101, signing out. Hi, Quadcopter 101 here again. Hey, if you want to get your own shout out in one of my future videos, make sure you subscribe to my channel. It's real simple. Just go to my channel page and click on that subscribe. And also make sure to click that bell button right next to the subscribe button. That way you get notified when I release a brand new video immediately and give you a chance to get that first shout out. So give it a try, folks.